what may be two of the most popular cartridges in the world. 38 Special, 9mm. 38's represented by my Model 64 Smith. 9mm by the Beretta 9mm. This is the Inox version, Model 92. These are two cartridges that have a lot of overlap ballistically. Typical 9mm bullet weights are 115 to 147 grain. Typical 38 Special bullet weights are 110 to 158. Yes, on both cases there are oddballs that may be both heavier or lighter. The advantage should rest with the semi-automatic 9mm with its higher capacity. But that's not the case. It depends on what function we have for the guns to do. And what I'm going to be doing and where I'm going to be going a particular day may determine which one I use. 38 Special was developed in the late 1890s. 9mm was developed in 1903. The 115 grain 9mm bullet gives us maybe 12 to 1300 feet a second and plus P loading, and that's about what the 38 gives us with 110 grains of bullet. May or may not be in A plus P loading. 9mm is probably the cheaper of the two ammunition to acquire right now. As of the time I'm recording this, it's about $8 a box at Walmart. It's right at about $20 for a box of 38 Special. And this is for target ammunition. The interesting thing is I'm pretty proficient with both of these guns. So depending on where I'm going, what I'm going to be doing, that determines, which cartridge I'm going to give the nod to. If I'm carrying purely for self-defense, well, maybe I'm going to go with the 9mm. But hey, I'm also proficient with this revolver. Wait a minute, there wasn't a clear-cut answer to that. And here's the personal issue, personal thought. I've spent more time with this revolver and with revolvers this type than I have with the semi-automatic. Uh-oh, things didn't become so clear. With the Beretta, I tend to favor the heavier 147 grain hollow point. My Smith & Wesson does not stabilize that bullet well in flight, and I shoot 124 plus P's in it. The revolver shoots everything well from 158, 125s, and 110s. Well, again, we have no clear winner. Whenever I start hand loading, particularly if I'm casting my own bullets out of lead, the price goes down significantly. So the cost with hand loads is about the same shooting either gun. The 9mm and most semi-automatics tend to favor round nose or bullets with a rounded ogive to them. That's not a factor with the revolver. It can shoot wad cutters, semi-wad cutters, hollow points, round nose, and snake shot. The revolver is not pressure dependent. It uses the mechanical action of the gun to turn the cylinder to put a fresh round under the hammer to fire. The semi-automatic depends on the cartridge generating enough pressure to move the slide backwards, kick the old casing out, and the mainspring having the tension to strip a new round out of the magazine when it comes forward and chamber another round for your follow-up shots. When we're talking about standard length ammunition, this isn't really a big factor. Of course, you could get into some oddball stuff, and then it becomes a factor. Both cartridges do adequately. So when we're comparing 9mm and 38, well, if we're comparing similar bullets to similar bullet weights, well, they both do a good job for a lot of tasks that I ask them to do. With the light bullets, the 115 grain and 9mm, the 110 and 38 special, both of these are excellent critter getters, and that means pest control, coyotes, stuff like that. I would not consider either of these cartridges a big game gun. Although with the heavier bullets, maybe, if I watch my ranges carefully. Speed with reloads, advantage semi-automatic. When we look at the cartridges, I typically load 115, 124, and 147 grain bullets in the 9mm. To load all three of these bullet weights, I use one powder, and that's Alliant Bullseye. As long as I have Alliant Bullseye, I'm going to have 9mm ammo. What may be an advantage or disadvantage with the 38 Special is I typically use Bullseye for my lighter target loads, my snake shot loads, and I use Unique for my cast bullet loads, heavier standard to heavy pressure loads. When we look at our bullet weights, 115 grain in the 9mm, and plus P we're getting 1250. 147 grain, we're getting between 1,000 and 1,100. 38, 110, 1250 to 1,300 in the 4-inch revolver. Between 1,000 and 1,100 feet a second with the 158. The overall length of 38 Special, because it doesn't require that head spaces on the rim, may be the best way to explain it. My overall length is not that big a factor, whereas it might be a factor with the semi-automatic. Am I going to tell you one is vastly superior to the other? No, it's going to depend on what you're using them for. Woods gun, I'm going to favor the revolver because it gives me the option to shoot the snake shot. It also gives me the option to load some very heavy loads, where if I need it for protection against a four-legged critter, I have that option. 9mm, well, I have less variation in it. This gun, along with any other 9mm pistol that I have tried, will not cycle snake shot out of the magazine. It simply isn't going to work. However, I have some 147 grain hard cast flat nose bullets that do make this a little better option for predator control than some other choices in ammunition may be. So when we look at the two, really isn't a matter in a clear cut who's better or what's better. It's going to be what meets your needs. If you're somebody who's geared toward strictly self-defense, occasional trips to the range and practice, well, either one may work well, but because of the cost of the factory ammunition, I'm going to give the edge to the 9mm. If you're someone who requires a little more versatility, well, you may end up doing a little bit better with the revolver, particularly if you're a hand loader and the price of ammunition is not nearly as big a factor. So that's some of my thoughts on these two cartridges. And I've used them both for a pretty good while now. And I find them both to be entirely adequate for what they're good for. Later on.